Thank you. Good afternoon. Chief O'Connor, I'd like to thank all of you for coming on behalf of myself and the officers and staff of Bethel Park Police Department. We are going to have our annual wreath laying ceremony, which will be in conjunction with Police Memorial Week, which is upcoming. And this year, we have a very special ceremony, and it is dedicated to Detective Lynn Sutter, who lost his life in the line of duty in 1987. So on the 30th anniversary of his passing, this ceremony is dedicated to him. So what I would like you all to do now is please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Detail, attend, present, on.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Halt! Every left, halt! Order, on! Parade, right!
Thank you. That was the Pittsburgh Police Honor Guard. Very welcome to have them here today. I'm now going to turn this over to Detective Dixon, and she'll have some special acknowledgments, and we'll start the program.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you all for coming. I'd like to welcome and acknowledge the Sutter family who have traveled here today to be here with us. Thank you all for coming. Also, our retired Bethel Park police officers in attendance, we thank you for your service and for being here with us today. Municipal council members, Judge Arnone, Mayor Allen, County Councilwoman Sue Means, and other distinguished guests, thank you all for coming today to help us celebrate all the fallen officers and Detective Lynn Sutter. Thank you. I would like to introduce our first speaker, retired Detective Sergeant John Lee.
Thank you, Detective. Can everybody hear me? Closer? Okay. I want to thank naturally the family. It's great to see them again. I haven't seen them in so many years. Mayor, Chief, Judge, officers, and all present to come here to honor Lynn Sutter. Sutter and I were partners for almost a decade. A lot of people don't know who he was, what he was. He was a young, happy, funny police officer, and did I mention he was single? He and I had some good times together. He was my training officer when I first got on the job. I got on the job May 2nd, 71. And they figured that they would turn me over to Lynn to teach me things. And just on the lighter side, we were on patrol, and in those days, I don't know if you still do it or not, accident reports required information. So we were on a one vehicle accident. A woman was the driver of the vehicle, and Lynn told me, this is how you do it. So went up, gathered her information, owner's card, driver's license, proof of insurance, come back to the car. He showed me how to copy everything down. He says, oh, there's one more thing I got to do. I said, what's that? He said, you'll see. We walked back up to the vehicle. I was on one side, he's on the other side. And he handed the cards back, and he told the woman, he says, now we have to put down the number of occupants in a vehicle, and I put 1.5. And I'm standing there looking at him, and she said, why? And he said, well, you're pregnant, aren't you? And she said, no, I'm not. So I did an about face and went back to the unit. He got in the car, and I said, that was really smooth, Sutter. I said, that was, and I said, I will not repeat this again at roll call or anywhere else. Here's this 40 years later, I'm repeating this story. So the flip side of that, he said, "Are you ready to make a traffic stop?" I said, "Absolutely." I had 2 weeks of training at Pennsylvania State University. The state trooper read the motor vehicle code from cover to cover for 2 weeks. So I was ready to make a traffic stop. So we saw a white Cadillac go through a stop sign, and he said, "Go ahead, do it." So I activated the siren, lights, pulled him over in a safe area so traffic wasn't impeded. And this, big hair back then was huge. Big redhead. This woman had this big red hair. And so I walked up to the car, and the driver was looking towards the center of the car, and I said, "Good afternoon, ma'am. May I please see your driver's license, owner's card, and proof of insurance?" At that, the driver turned around and looked at me, and he had a full red beard. And I looked at him, and I said, "Oh, man, I'm sorry. I apologize. Just you drive safely and go about your business." So we went back to the car, and Sutter said, "Hey, it's in the vault. I'm never going to repeat that story again." But Lynn did teach me. He had a black book. And back in those days, there weren't iPhones. He had a black book, and everything was in that black book. And like I said, he was very good looking, very energetic, boating, golfing, gambling. His best friend here, Skip Young, is here somewhere, and they did a very good job gambling. Well, he had this black book, and anytime we needed anything, he'd go to the black book. Well, he taught me networking. And you guys out there, you police officers, you know that you have to network. And to this day, I still do networking. So I really think about him every day. He's the one that first took me to golf, or Oakmont Golf Club, back in the early 80s. It was the Open, and I had no knowledge of golf whatsoever. And we were on a par 3 where they draw the ball over, and we were on the corner. And I saw the ball coming at us, and nobody said anything. And I said, "4!" And Sutter looked at me like that, and these people were looking at me, and the ball just draw it over and almost went in the cup, And he says, "Please, John, don't say another word when we're on the golf course." So I was golfing there yesterday, so I told the same story. I say his name every day, or I tell a story about him every day. He was good with my kids. To this day, my kids are 38 and 39, and they refer to him as Uncle Lynn. So it's really touching. And thank you guys for having this ceremony. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the family. So with that, I'd like to remember all the law enforcement brothers and sisters that gave the ultimate sacrifice before. And thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Our next presenter is Tri-Community South Director Nora Helfrich and friend of Detective Lynn Sutter. Nora.
Thank you. It's an honor for me to say a few words about Lynn Sutter, who was my friend. And like Johnny Lee said, he had a sense of humor like no other. I think we'll agree on that. I bowled in the bowling league, and Lynn bowled the same night as I did. I'll keep those stories to ourselves. And he always would come up to me. He would finish before I did, and he would say, "Now, don't forget, stop on your way home. I'm going to leave the light on for you." And, of course, we never stopped. And the next week, I would hear again how we didn't stop. There were several female police officers in my league as well. So at the holidays, Lynn would make a point of bringing me a bag of burned out light bulbs, letting me know that these all came from all the nights that I never showed up and my friends did not. Sadly, the last words that Lynn said to me were, "There's going to be a day where you're sorry you didn't come." And Lynn was killed in the line of duty. Ironically, it was like he was there last week at our EMS base, and the paramedic that came and donated all the tourniquets for the police departments looked at the flyer for Lynn, and he said, "I can't believe it's been 30 years since I took care of him." We're very funny. We like to take care of our own, which we all know. And it wasn't until that point that I knew that this paramedic, who is outstanding, gave Lynn the best possible care he could have received that night. So I was very grateful, and it was like Lynn was saying, "Finally, here you go." He taught me many things back in the old days, as I say, because I'm old. Johnny Lee, Skippy Harnack, Chief Clutch, Dennis McDonough. I was privileged to be trained and taught to be street smart, because back in the old days, we weren't taught that in paramedic school. And so those life lessons, like you said, Joni, have stayed with me all these years and made me be the way I am today in EMS. The light bulbs that are for police officers today, Lynn Sutter came up with that idea over 30 years ago. So I thank you again for the privilege of speaking about Lynn and appreciate the time today that you've come. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Pastor Tom Barnicott from the First Bethel United Methodist Church.
Good afternoon, friends, and thank you all for allowing me to be here to represent the people of First Bethel Church who for the past 30 years have remembered and cherished the privilege it was to celebrate a life well lived in our church so long ago. Now, as I stand here, I want to ask you a few questions first, if I could. See how many of these you can answer. Name the 5 wealthiest people in the world. Somebody name the last 5 recipients of the Heisman Trophy. Anybody here name the last 10 winners of the Miss America contest? Or even the last 10 winners of the World Series? Chances are you did as I always do. I mess up on things like that. I do. I flunked that test when it was first sent to me by a buddy in an email not too long ago. Because not many of us really remember the headliners of yesterday. And those aren't second-rate achievers when I mentioned who they are, the series champs, the Miss America winners. They're the best in their fields. But applause dies, and achievements are forgotten. Let me give you another quiz if I could. Name 3 friends who helped you through a difficult time. Think of 5 people who taught you something worthwhile. Or 3 people who inspired you to do something you didn't think you could do. My hunch is, folks, that was a lot easier to do in your mind. And the point is simply this. The people who make a difference in our lives aren't necessarily the ones with the most awards, the ones with the most money. They are the ones who inspire us to be better people. Lynn Sutter was one of those people. Had the events of March 26, 1987 never happened, Lynn would be 71 today. By now he would have retired after years of dedicated service to the people of Bethel Park and to this department that he was so dedicated to. He would have gone forward to live a life of incredible caring and compassion for his family and his friends, just as he did when he moved in with his ailing father right after his mother died. Just as he did by being that beloved uncle that his nieces and nephews looked to and loved so much. Just as he did by offering whatever help he could, whatever joke he could, whatever life he could to whatever situation you and so many others were going through. No, those are not the kinds of activities that make the papers. But maybe they should. Sadly, it was Detective Sutter's tragic death that made the news and made the papers. But friends, it was his life that made the difference, making the lives of family, friends, community members safer and far better. And it is his life that draws us here today to this spot, from down the street and across the state, from down through the years. We are here to remember him and all those like him who go out each and every day willingly putting themselves in harm's way to keep us secure, lovingly going forward as a son or a daughter to care for an ailing parent or perhaps a child, and unforgettably as a person with incredible integrity, spirit, and life. A life that can't be forgotten even 30 years later. We gather here on this cloudless day and we honor the detective, but oh, how we give thanks for that man and all that he meant. Now, as you mentioned, Lynn never married and he never had children. But I'm here to tell you this, and I'm here to tell him, Lynn, you had a far bigger family than you ever imagined. And that family gathers today to say thank you, Detective Sutter. You will never be forgotten. Your family, your community, and your church gives thanks to God for you. And we'll never forget. Thanks to all of you for the privilege of being here today. It is not lightly taken. I appreciate it greatly. God bless you.
Thank you. Now, Lieutenant Kirsch and brother of Detective Lynn Sutter, Gordon Sutter, will place the wreath at the memorial.
Detail. 1, 2, hoot.
Thank you. At this time, Lieutenant Babin will assist in the presentation of the Fallen First Responders Memorial Plaque and the Bethel Park Police Department Purple Heart. Lieutenant Blake Babin.
Detail. Parade. Rest.
We're honored today to have in our presence several members of the Military Order of the Purple Heart who are here to present their Fallen First Responders plaque to the Sutter family. If I could introduce them, Mr. Brian Bossong, Joe Milinak, Tom Cusick, George Coppola, and the past department commander, Greg Daly. And if at this time I could have Mr. Greg Daly step up to assist with presenting the plaque to the family. Plaque reads as follows. Honoring the memory of Detective Lynn Russell Sutter, Bethel Park Police Department, March 28, 1987, for making the ultimate sacrifice while serving the citizens of Pennsylvania. Presented by the Department of Pennsylvania, Chapter 455, Military Order of the Purple Heart, USA. At this time, it is my great honor and high privilege to assist in the presentation of the Bethel Park Police Department's Purple Heart Award.
Detail. Attend. Who?
Chief O'Connor will be presenting the Purple Heart, and he will be assisted by Lieutenant Kirsch, who will be presenting the accompanying certificate. The certificate reads as follows. The Bethel Park Police Department, Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. This is to certify that the Chief of Police has awarded posthumously the Purple Heart to Detective Lynn Russell Sutter. On March 26, 1987, while conducting a tactical counter-drug operation, Detective Sutter was wounded by gunfire. Despite overwhelming efforts to save his life, on March 28, 1987, he succumbed to that wound and made the ultimate sacrifice. His sense of responsibility, dedication to duty, and ultimate sacrifice are in keeping with the finest traditions of the Bethel Park Police Department. They reflect great credit upon himself, his fellow officers, the municipality of Bethel Park, and the law enforcement profession.
Detail. Parade. Rest.
Thank you. Each member of the Sutter family who requests will also be given a framed copy of the award certificate. In addition, all plaques and certificates will proudly be displayed at the Bethel Park Police Department. At this time, I would like to introduce Detective Lynn Sutter's family, who's here with us today. Sandy and Michael Ross. Sandy was Detective Lynn Sutter's sister. Also, Donna Wilson, Lynn's other sister. His brother, Gordon, and his wife, Michelle Sutter. His niece, Jennifer Bowen, and her husband, Brian. Other niece, Molly, and her husband, Joe Hott. Another niece, Deborah Beach. We want to thank you for being here with us today. The family had asked me to express to all of you their sincere appreciation for today's memorial, but not only for today's memorial, but for all that law officers do every day, the retired and the current. They want to thank us all for our service, and they truly appreciate the sacrifices that we make on a daily basis. So, on behalf of them, thank you all. And also, his niece, Deborah Beach, Deb, would like to say a few words. Deb.
Thank you. Lynn became my uncle when he was about 14 years old. So he was a young uncle, him and Gordon. But what I remember best is just how we laughed all the time. He played with us kids like nobody's business. He took us places. We did things together. Whenever we were here to visit, it was just always really, really special. Over the years, you know, when that date rolls around, we'd be sad, but now over the last years, it's more, I remember just all the happiness he brought us and just how funny he was. There's just no other words to describe him. You all knew, most of you knew him that are here, and just want to thank you all for being here today.
Thank you. This will conclude today's ceremony. We will have a bugler who will play taps, and then the officers will be dismissed. Thank you all for coming. God bless you, and God bless America.
Detail. Attend. Who? Present. On. Detail, fall out.
Thank you all.